Hello, 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 hello. Happy Wednesday. We are live yet again. Let me know as people start to join. Let me know in the comments where in the world are you? There's my audio working, so that's good. YouTube is working. We're live streaming on YouTube. We are on my Facebook page and Facebook group. We are live on LinkedIn. Thank you for joining. Everybody just coming in, let me know in the comment section, where are you tuning in from? Do you have a massive snowstorm? I've been seeing all the crazy snow pictures. Here in Atlanta, it is rather cold. And I do kind of miss the fact that I'm not in a Manhattan snowstorm right now. So let us know in the comments where you're joining from, the organization that you work for. And we have a pretty amazing interview lined up for today. So if you're not familiar with who I am, my name is Dana Snyder, and I run a company called Positive Equation, and I work with nonprofit marketers on really cultivating a passionate online audience of donors, sponsors, and supporters. So today I brought in a guest expert. I'm super excited to have Zoe join us. So today we are talking about what corporate partners look for in a nonprofit partnership. So if you were down for partnerships and collaborations, you were in the right spot to brainstorm and how to think about them in 2021. This is raw, this is real conversation. So if you have questions, we do this to benefit you. So please feel free to drop those questions in the chat. Sue, I see you. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here. And Anne is here from Take Stock in Children. Shout out. I love it. Are you getting ready for the Super Bowl? Let's go Bucks. All right, so brief introduction before I bring her on and officially get started. So Zoe Katz, she combines her passions for entertainment and philanthropy in her role as VP of Entertainment, Partnerships, and head of WCPG content at the cause agency WCPG. So she has been there since 2014, and just listen to this roster of people she's worked with, everyone. Okay, like no big deal on this list. She has helped manage the fundraising and partnership efforts for organizations and interests in humans like Nick Jonas, Seth Rogen, Sean Penn, Amelia Clark, Hilary Swank. I mean, just casual on her casual day job. And she's created partnerships with corporations from Diageo to Bumble, raising significant funding and support, and has also led cause campaigns for Salesforce, Revlon, and Lifetime Television. Pretty cool. Zoe also serves on the board of directors of the Pink Agenda and on the Regional Advisory Council of Experience Camps. She graduated from the University of Michigan. Do we have any fans there? And I was lucky enough to actually meet Zoe when we spent time together in Los Angeles, because she launched WCPG's first West Coast office in LA a couple years ago, I think in 2018. So she's now been working with causes in the entertainment industry, leaders and brands to really bring about social good movements. So I'm excited to have her. Can we get some clap emojis for her in the comments? And let's go ahead and bring her up. Hey.
Hey, Dana. Thank you so much. It's crazy to hear that out loud. Thank you for the comments on all of that. I really appreciate it, and it's always hard to follow.
It's
an expert.
Pretty cool work you've been able to do.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm really proud to be able to, work with such amazing causes and people who are passionate about giving back and corporations.
Yes, I love that. All right, so let's dive in. Can you give us, I know I gave you a big bio on you. Can you talk about what WCPG does and maybe how it's evolved, especially as you've expanded to the West Coast?
Sure. So WCPG, we are a social impact agency, and we exist to help good causes grow in terms of awareness and fundraising. We have three different types of clients. The first are larger nonprofit organizations that are really kind of brands in themselves, organizations from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center to Save the Children. Earth Justice is a client I'm really proud to be working with right now. As well as organizations that have been started by high-profile people. So Dana mentioned some of the people that I'm really proud to have worked alongside. CORE is one of our longest term clients, was co-founded by Sean Penn and is currently operating COVID testing sites and now vaccine distribution sites across the country, and really doing a lot of great work in a number of cities, including the Los Angeles area. I'm really proud to have supported Beyond Type 1, which was co-founded by Nick Jonas for the number of years.
A Super Bowl spot actually coming out. Do you see that?
Sorry?
About talking about his diabetes?
Yes. He will be talking about his experience with diabetes and Beyond Type 1 and the Super Bowl this year, which is really amazing and a huge feat for the organization. And then, as you mentioned too, we work with brands, corporations. Have done great campaigns with Revlon, Unilever, Lifetime Television this Christmas season, which was a really fun one. And, our work, both on behalf of nonprofits and on brands, allows us to create meaningful conversations on behalf of whoever our client is, because we're able to see the perspective of the potential partner.
Awesome. That's amazing. So this has been I literally just got off teaching a webinar talking about how to pitch digital sponsorships surrounding virtual events. And this is a hot topic that everyone wants to figure out what our company is looking for. And that's changed a lot with the climate of the world that we live in. It's not just like a check handed over anymore. Remember when we used to just have those like big check presentations?
Yep.
Now it's like, hey, thanks for your money, bye.
Exactly.
That's not how it works anymore. So collaborations are really powerful. Big organizations, small organizations, whole thing are really beneficial for brands and nonprofits. Can you share a case study about a great partnership that you've seen or maybe that you helped develop between a nonprofit and a brand?
Yeah. And, I'll add, Dana, that it's right. They're mutually beneficial partnerships is what we talk about a lot within our work. So it's just as important for a brand to be getting something from the organization as it is for the organization to getting those dollars and awareness. We'll talk about that a little bit more as well. But one of the largest partnerships that we've done at WCPG that we're really proud of is our work with Cycle for Survival and our partnerships with New Balance and Tag Heuer and Smartwater. And, those partnerships were really multi-pronged and allowed for organizations not only to support rare cancer research through one of the leading institutions in the country, but more than that, they were marketing opportunities for the brands. So Cycle for Survival is the fastest growing endurance event in the country. They've raised over $110 million for rare cancer research through a partnership with Equinox Gym. It's a national program that
I've done it before.
It's so much fun, and the participants are engaged, and it's peer-to-peer fundraising. So people are messaging about it all year long. And so there's those touch points of peer-to-peer and the everyday person messaging about the partners. There's celebrities that have participated in their live events. So, if a New Balance is donating all the swag that year, all those celebrities get their Cycle for Survival shirts with the NB on it. And it's that free marketing, for New Balance, as well as, the PR that comes from that, and, the association with those really top brands to be in the company of. So, and not to mention, Memorial Sloan Kettering's reach as a leading institution in themselves in terms of social media and newsletter and database. So it really, it's a great example of a partnership that touched on a number of different things, and also that made a huge and tangible impact for the organization, where the organization year after year is able to come back to the past year's corporate partners and show them the return and say, because of your support, you have, we have made leaps and bounds in terms of rare cancer research.
That's amazing. And that's a huge thing you just hit on. Is I talk about this all the time. You have to share the impact stories with your sponsors. Like, it's not just, yes, thanks for the money, see you later. Or not just, here's the money, here's how many eyeballs and the impressions and the metrics. The metrics are great, but it's the emotional, the impact factor that actually is what the focus is on. And so to share that information is really important. I mean, to that leads really nicely into my next question, which is, what are corporations looking for this year when they partner with a nonprofit?
So I think you touched on some of that. It's what are they going to get out of it as much as you're going to get out of it. So, so what are, I know I talked to a corporation recently about, what are those social media returns? And so those direct kind of KPIs and engagement on social media and other relevant platforms. How is their brand going to be elevated in a meaningful way? Like you said, what's the impact that's going to be done as a result of that corporate partnership? So even if you are, entering into a corporate partnership for unrestricted funds, which of course is everybody's ideal situation, still, because they're giving you those unrestricted funds, allows you to perhaps pay the overhead that then lets you do your programmatic work. So right. You don't need to give them a $1 to $1 because you gave us $1, this dollar is going here, because people understand, it takes money to run your operations.
It takes people to make things happen.
Exactly. And that's one thing that's really great about corporate partnerships versus those grant dollars and foundation funding you might be getting, is those are often programmatic specific. So corporate dollars are going to help you with those unrestricted funds. I'd also say that, for better or worse, there are a lot of hot button issues and things on the forefront of people's minds right now. COVID, of course, and the fallout from that, and the people who are disproportionately affected by COVID. The Black Lives Matter movement and equity overall, and how equity is going to intersect with the environmental, racial and economic movement and situations. And so I think a recommendation for me as well would be to find how your organization fits into some of those hot button topics. Of course, the work that we're all doing is incredible. And if no matter what you're doing, if it's a health related, organization, environment, social services, we're all doing incredible work. But to appeal to corporations who are looking for some, to connect with some of those more specific and relevant issues for this moment, to find that angle as to how your organization, for instance, Beyond Type 1 is an incredible organization, and they serve the type 1 and type 2 diabetic community and in a really meaningful and engaged and robust way. And they have, from the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, they have been releasing weekly messaging around how their community can get resources and get information about COVID. They put together a coalition with other organizations to see how they can, they can support a community like the diabetic community, which has been disproportionately affected and is a vulnerable community for COVID. And they've also been able to show how their organization over the years, and will continue to, support, organizations in the Hispanic community, Black and Brown communities. And so taking what they're doing and just making sure to highlight some of those hot button issues and topics will appeal to a wide range of different corporate partners.
So smart. And I think one thing you just nailed too is when you mentioned that they're weekly communicating.
Yep.
Right? They're consistently coming out, they're being present, and they're being able to talk about something that is a hot topic, front of mind. They're educating not only the people that they're supporting, but their supporters in what they're doing for their community. And that's a big thing too. Let me see. Oh, Sue has a question here. If it's somewhat of a cold call intro, who do they start with in terms of building the initial partnership?
So I think it depends. I know the work that we do, we like to go after those marketing dollars because often there's more budget there than the smaller CSR dollars. And also often corporations have very specific CSR and giving pillars that your organization may not fit into. So I would say if you have determined that your organization does fit into those really specific pillars that you found that an organization, that a company cares about, then do go after that CSR because they're going to be really hyper focused on that. But otherwise, I think a marketing manager is a real good contact. You just want to make sure that you have either in your very brief intro and also in your back pocket, some ideas for the return and the actual marketing and PR for the company will be when engaging with your organization, because that's at the end of the day what that person is going to be looking for.
Yes, that's huge. And I think to find that person, I always say to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a great place to try and find both of those contacts and have that conversation. Another thing that's interesting that I just spoke on is if you are going to go for the marketing dollars, look at the sponsor's website, right? Look at their social channels. What are they pushing, right? What are they trying to market? What's their mission statement right now? What's their marketing slogans? Can you fit into those somehow? Because if they're spending thousands, millions of dollars on their own marketing and you can like seamlessly fit into that messaging and elevate it with a purpose message, oh, that's magic.
Exactly. For sure.
Love that. It's a great question, Sue. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
To that point, and my question, this comes from somebody who is a digital strategist and I love social media, so don't turn me wrong here, but does the appearance and upkeep of a nonprofit's website and social channels matter to brand partners?
100%. I mean, it's all about, brand alignment. And so, when a brand is looking at the potential of partnering with you, they're going to look at those social channels. The first thing they're going to do is go to your website. And if it's outdated, it's a turnoff. And not only do you want something updated, but you want something user-friendly, easy to use, good looking, so that they can say, if our brand is going to align and people are going to click through from our brand to this organization, or we're going to look to merge assets for a specific campaign or program, you want that to, look great and not be a turnoff to a brand.
Yes, I'm so glad you agree. I think websites, what I always say right now, websites and social media channels are your storefronts.
Yep.
Because they're not going to your office. And even right now, it's even better because with COVID, if you're doing, a lot of people are doing virtual events that are live streams, and that way you're broadening your donor base right now, or you have the potential to. So it doesn't have to just be whoever could come locally, but people regionally or internationally or nationally can learn about your organization. So you want to make sure that your web and your social are clearly stating your mission, what your impact goals are that are relevant. I see a lot of sites that are like, since 1967, we've done X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, what did you do last year? What are your goals for this year? Like, where's my money going to go,
Definitely. And if you can highlight some of those programs that you're doing in some of those hot button topics, that's really helpful too. So that when someone goes directly to your website, they will, they'll see, oh, they do have programming within XYZ space.
Love this comment from Natalie. Thanks, Natalie. We're trying to spit out the fire for you. We're trying to put out some exciting things. If you have questions, by the way, please make sure to ask them in the comments, and I promise we'll bring them up. Sue had another question here. Are you familiar with LinkedIn for nonprofits? Worth looking into.
I actually am not familiar with LinkedIn for nonprofits. Are you, Dana?
I've done a little bit of research. I actually just used LinkedIn to reach out to the person who leads LinkedIn for nonprofits to try and speak on there. So that's how they do a bunch of video teaching sessions.
Interesting.
All around nonprofit tools and ways to use LinkedIn. So Sue, yes, a little bit. And hopefully I get to speak on there, but I would love I think it's definitely worth looking into. What I say with any type of teaching platform is find what works for you. Find what you enjoy watching and learning from. And then go into that. So I'd say try it out, test it out. And the more I find out about it, actually, I should make a note. I'll make a note to look into it. So I'll write it down on my side.
Stay tuned. I'll be touching base with you on that as well.
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is a really untapped tool. I was reading something about only 1% of LinkedIn's audience actually posts on LinkedIn. So it's not nearly as saturated as the Facebook and Instagram.
I believe it, because you see a lot of the same people's posts.
Yeah, right? So it's not nearly as saturated. So I think there's a big opportunity there. And you can really target as far as titles, job titles, and companies if you're looking for sponsors on LinkedIn. So to find the right person. Okay, we're going to jump into the next question, which is, what should nonprofits have ready to share with a potential brand sponsor?
You want to have, especially when reaching out, you definitely want to have a really nice looking brief one pager or deck that you can share. And I highlight the word brief. People, especially if you're going out cold, you want to make sure that it's to the point and you can share more information if they're interested. I think those social channels and website as well. You can have, whether in that deck or just, I always like to say, in your back pocket, some ideas of how you may want to partner with them. But I think that, I always like to start a conversation with, let me hear what you guys have done in the past. What are you working on right now?
Yes.
Like Dana mentioned, what products are you marketing? What's important to you? And then you can customize those things as well.
I love that. And I think also if you're going to do a more, in my opinion, I love the brief deck, because then if you jump on a call, you can and most of our calls nowadays are on Zoom or Google Hangouts or something. So there's a visual component, and you'd be like, oh, hey, let me share my screen. Right. And you then share like a longer deck or something that you have prepared.
Definitely. And you leave them wanting a little bit more to get that phone call, once you get on that phone call.
Yes. And it gives you something to run through that's visual, keeps the attention going 100%.
Exactly.
Let's see. Jamie has a question here from YouTube. When you take new nonprofit clients, do you also hook them up with corporate sponsors?
Yeah. So that's often a scope of work that we have, for our clients. So depending on what a nonprofit's looking for and what we all talk about, for sure, a lot of our scope of work is putting together really strategic target lists of partners based on whether programs or events or something new that we're creating together, and then going out to those partners on your behalf and, creating and managing the partnerships with corporations.
Awesome. Cool. So is there one like common mistake that you see either that brands do or nonprofits do when working on a partnership?
I think, I think thinking about the outreach process and trying to create on behalf, so as a nonprofit trying to create those partners, I think a couple small mistakes are sending a really long email or sending too much information to start. Again, the goal is always just to get that phone call. So you don't need to throw all of the information about your ideas in the nonprofit at someone if you're cold outreaching. Start with just a simple, line about what you guys are doing, perhaps touch on something you've seen about the corporation or, their marketing, and then say, we'd love to get on a call to discuss this, and just give them a little bit to bite on. And I think, Dana, to your point of not doing the research and looking into ways that you can, piggyback off of things that they've already expressed interest in is a common mistake too. So really do a little bit of research and then just try to, get that initial phone call.
Yes, I agree. And you nailed something where if you can make a short email introduction and something that is relevant to the organization, that shows you've at least done some research, and you're not just like, oh, hey, don't you just want to be my sponsor? But you took a little bit of time to do some research, I think is key. I agree. Awesome. So I'm sure people are wondering, and again, if anyone has questions, please feel free to post them in the comments and we will get them answered for you. Zoe, where can people reach out to you and how can they receive more information?
So Dana will post my email in the chat. Please feel free to reach out. It's Zoe, Zoe, at WCPG.co. And, happy to have a phone conversation, happy to share with you, some more information on some of our work and to talk through if it might make sense for us to, come on to support your organization.
Awesome. Perfect. Zoe, if anybody else, I'm going to give, is there any other questions? This is your last chance. Dive in. If not, I know you can reach out to Zoe separately via email and have more of a one-on-one conversation. But with that, Zoe, thank you so much for taking your time and doing a quick little Q&A with us today. Sue, you're welcome. She says, thanks so much. Thank you to everybody who joined today. And Zoe, enjoy beautiful Los Angeles weather.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Dana. And thank you everyone for joining. I look forward to touching base directly with some of you.
Awesome. Thanks, Zoe. Awesome. That was amazing. I think partnerships and collaborations are literally one of the most important things to grow your brand awareness, grow your followers, grow more meaningful donors. And there's so many creative ways to do partnerships. Really think outside the box in this digital world that we live in. In the event that the webinar I was just speaking about, I said, why don't you think about doing an Instagram live with as like a cocktail hour thing before your actual virtual event. And so you're doing a live with your sponsor. So their audience is notified, your audience is notified, and then everyone shifts from there to your virtual event. So fun way to get people involved. That's free. I also wanted to post, I'm going to share it in the chat. My 2 new courses are now live. So one is on virtual events. So it literally takes you through the process of how to plan a really engaging virtual event. And then the second one is the magic of Facebook and Instagram. So if Facebook and Instagram have you stumped and you're not increasing your website traffic, if you're not getting more donors, if you're not raising funds on those platforms, you should be. And so this course will break down how to use Facebook and Instagram to benefit and maximize those features for your organization. So with that said, thank you all so much for joining. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. And again, these lives are every first and third Wednesday of the month. And I look forward to seeing you at the next one. Bye, everyone.